Hello, my name is Talia Maidike. My team members Stephen Vaya, Carlos Reyes, Drew Blumenthal, Daniel Barbosa, and Luis Miranda worked on the SCIS-2020 version 13 project for the summer 2020 term. This is our intro video. Okay, so first, the general problems with the app before we started working was that there was no actual backup of the game data. It was only stored locally on the device. There was no proper representation of clubs, groups, or players within the app. So there was no way to link who played which game, and it made it difficult to determine, to view it after later on in the future. There was no representation of stations, which is groups of pads and how the pads are arranged. There was poor recreatability of games as not enough sufficient game data was stored. Players and coaches could only view past scores on the device that was used for the games, as it was only stored locally. And there was no multiplayer capabilities. Okay, so as far the solutions we came up with to target these problems was that we created a dashboard that coaches and players could get access to then view their scores. The database where all the data from the app, we created a database where data from the app could be uploaded to, and then the dashboard would query it to display the data. Functionality was added to the dashboard so that you could search scores based off of clubs, groups, and players individually. Lots of graphs and average scores for comparison were created. Within the app, there now exists representations of clubs, groups, and stations. The use of stations and increased game data being stored through game tables where game settings are stored increases the recreatability of games for future reference to see improvement over time. These are some of the new features we added to the app, such as logging in for uploading purposes, the player fragment where you can upload all data, add players, and view players. There's also the station fragment, which is where you can view which stations have been created and you can add new ones. There's also the club fragment and group fragment, where similarly you can add new clubs. As you can see there, you have the club ID, the club name, and the first initial of the club owner and their last name. And then in the club fragment, you have the club ID, the group ID, the group name, how many members are within that group, and the group description. And then here you also see the setup for multiplayers, solo player, duo, and trio. And then similarly, you select which player and the color their patch should light up. These are new features that were added to the web page. A login page to access the dashboard, registration page to create accounts and create users, graphs, as well as club pages, owners being able to see all of their clubs, and player profile, user profiles to see scores. Okay, this is the schedule we mostly adhered to in order to get everything done. We finished right on time. Okay, we completed almost 30 user stories total. These are the ones displayed on this page are more representations of major changes we did, major milestones we completed in order to add functionality to the product. And these are the most important ones of everything we did. Adding duo and trio game functionality for multiplayer purposes, creating station object representation in the app, creating the website dashboard to view scores for data analysis, hopefully later on, synchronizing the clubs from the app to the SQL server, synchronizing groups from the app to the SQL server, and synchronizing the players from the app to the SQL server as well. Okay, this is a use case diagram of the general use of stations within the app, from how they're used in gameplay through the user interface to how they are presented within the station fragment as far as adding new stations and viewing existing stations for more details, updating and deleting them. These are use case diagrams for the general use of clubs and groups within the app as well. Top left is the use case diagram for clubs, and then lower right you have groups. Okay, this is a use case diagram of the dashboard subsystem from the perspective of a returning user, as far as logging in, viewing their club dashboard and the player dashboard as well. This is a use case diagram for saving duo and trio games, which is multiplayer games, 2 to 3 players. Okay, this is another website use case, but from the perspective of any and all users, from registering to logging in to navigating the dashboard. This is a sequence diagram that shows how the process to log in on the Skillcourt app on the Android device. This is another sequence diagram for uploading data from the app up to the dashboard. This is a sequence diagram for creating a station. The top left, there's a sequence diagram for creating a club, and the lower right is a sequence diagram for creating a group. Okay, and this is another sequence diagram for traversing through the dashboard from when you first register to viewing. Okay. This is another sequence diagram for the player page from the dashboard. Okay, and this is another sequence diagram, and this one is for editing your profile on the dashboard. Okay, this is the architecture diagram for the system we created. We employ a model view controller framework, and we use a client server model as far as the interaction between the device and the web server and database. We use Azure Cloud. Okay, and then this is a deployment diagram of the interaction between the pad, the Android device, the web server, and the database. And this is a decomposition diagram of the subsystems in the Skillcourt app. This is a class diagram of the website. This is a class diagram of the administration classes within the Android app. This is a class diagram of the stations, clubs, and groups classes within the Android app. Okay, this is the main algorithm. This actually this is pseudocode from the data syncer implemented within the app, particularly the upload portion of the data syncer, how it uploads the data stored on the device to the dashboard. Okay, we did a lot of test cases, but these are the most important ones as far as how they're related to the main user stories. So we have how we verifying the registration of a brand new user through the registration page. That was a pass. We were able to successfully do so. Verifying solo, duo, and trio games are played with a selected player and color for the respective player. This was a pass. It worked successfully. Verifying games are played with the station's respective pads. That was also a pass. We were able to successfully do so. This is mostly tested through the use of sequences. Then clicking upload button on an administration page successfully uploads players and session data to the website database. This was also a pass. We were able to successfully upload data from the app to the dashboard and view it there. These are some of the technologies we used. Android Studio, a big one, Azure Cloud, Java, Android, Raspberry Pi, just to name a few. Okay, thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. Have a good day.